Hi, Monica Fernandes with Evolution Essentials. In this video, I'm going to be talking to Jessie Wilkie on 5 ways women can manage stress at work in 2020. Please stick around for my free gift to you, as I have one that's surely to reduce your stress. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this video. Today, I'm talking to Jessie on 5 ways women can manage stress at work in 2020. And Jessie, welcome.
Thank you so much.
And I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about yourself so people don't know you can learn a little bit more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm really excited to have this conversation. I think it's much needed right now during the times of COVID and quarantine. But my name is Jessie, as you said. I was formerly a human resources manager. My background is in human resources and in hospitality. However, throughout the pandemic, I've had an opportunity to shift and to pivot. And so I've launched recently my own business by the name of Your Careers. That's YOR, Your Careers. It stands for Your Own Reality in This Professional Life of Yours. And so what we focus on is helping you build your confidence to land better jobs and better salaries. And so we do that through resume services, cover letter services, LinkedIn profile writing, and also career coaching. We'll be focusing on consultation calls as well as trainings. It's been such an opportunity and a blessing to really help those who have had an opportunity, I say, to be able to pivot into something new or to find something else that they're interested in. So I thank all of my clients for giving me that opportunity to be able to partner with them in just mastering their own career.
That's awesome. I love the name of your business, Your Careers. I mean, it's perfect. It's very, very perfect, I think.
Thank you.
I think, whether it's a pandemic or a crisis, do you think that women experience stress differently than men at work?
So that's a great question. I think that there is an element of stress for both men and women at work, regardless. Mm-hmm. I do think, however, there are always going to be different expectations. So, and this goes back to the fact that rather men have had a head start in the professional world, right? And so it wasn't until years later that women found a name for themselves in the professional life. And I do believe that due to that, there are a lot of opportunities where we can feel maybe less prepared or maybe less adaptable, or that there's different expectations in regards to what we bring to the table, or different expectations in regards to what we're supposed to make in salaries, which can be an entirely different conversation. But overall, I do think that because of certain expectations for us to prove ourselves, right, because men did have a bit of a head start in the professional world, I think there can be a little bit of extra stress. I think when you are a woman with a seat at the table, you have to speak a little bolder. You have to speak a little bit more confidently. You have to dress a little bit more appropriately in the sense of being taken seriously for what you're articulating rather than the way that you look. And so I do think there are different factors that add to a different type of stress management for women in the workplace.
And I think that one of the things you also, I think, specialize on is confidence. And I think that this has to do a lot with confidence, because already the scrutiny with being a woman, so we have to try harder or have a bit of a disadvantage, let's say. And when I say women, also any type of inequality, obviously, but we're focusing on women here. And I think confidence is a big piece of it, because if you're lacking that can really be a lot more stress causing.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of prep work and inner work that has to be done before you take that seat at the table, because of the fact that there are all of these added factors of, why does she think what she has to say is of value? And if you don't believe what you have to say is of value before you take that seat at the table, you won't be able to articulate it with confidence. You won't be able to make the impact that you're capable of making within the workplace if you don't first believe you have that ability before you take that seat.
So true. I always equate self-esteem more of an always work in progress. I think it's something that women at some point in their lives struggle with, whether it's when they're little or when they're in their workplace. So that also, I think, has an impact sometimes on how people connect at work with others. And I remember when I was, ages ago, it seems like a lifetime ago, I had a boss that was, let's just say, his ethics and integrity weren't to a level of standard that is normal, and so he was very comfortable being a compulsive liar. And so my question is not related to that, but it's about having a boss or a superior or somebody that you report to that is difficult, or that is let's just say adding to your aggravation, that means adding to your stress. Are there any special tips that you have in terms of dealing with a difficult manager or a different superior?
I love that question because that's something that's close to home for myself.
Okay.
And I think most people, and if you haven't, kudos to you, and you've had a wonderful work experience, but I think most people at some point in their professional journey will come in contact with a boss or at least a coworker that doesn't align with their values or their ethics. And so before I jump into that, I did want to touch on the fact that I agree with you 100% in regards to our level of confidence and our lack of confidence, and that becomes a journey for us. It is definitely a progress, and I do not believe we have come into this world with a lack of confidence. I think there are interactions and circumstances and people that we come in contact that kind of just chip away at who we naturally are and remind us or help us to believe that I need to fix this and I need to fix this and I need to fix this in order to be of value or in order to be accepted in fill in the blank, whether it's your personal or your professional life. And so getting back to your natural state of confidence and who you believe you are to be and the impact you have in this world, it is definitely a journey. And so part of that journey, unfortunately, is running into people who don't align with those values and maybe make you think that you have to adjust yourself in an effort to align with theirs, right? And so in regards to your conversation with this boss of yours who was a compulsive liar and that doesn't align with your values, as it shouldn't, my best tips would be to first understand what your values are and what's important to you. In work in general, there will be compromise. That's reality. You will come in contact with a boss or a superior that asks you to adjust the way you do something at work, or asks you to present yourself differently, or suggests that you may have to communicate differently or act differently in a certain setting. And although you may not naturally agree, if it's for the betterment of the company and the success of your team, I would have a self-check with yourself and say, okay, is this something that's not aligning with myself and my values to the point where I feel uncomfortable adjusting? And if it is, then you draw the line at that point. If it's not, and you can see the big picture, I would say go ahead and try it. Take the advice of your leader. Go ahead and see if that works for the betterment and the success of the team. And if it doesn't, you have a conversation afterwards. But when it comes to something that doesn't align with your ethics or your values, I think you should stand firm. I've come in contact with a few leaders myself where they've asked me to do certain things that I don't feel is, I don't think that it's right in the workplace. And that's the simplest way that I can say that, especially as a human resources representative. And so I've respectfully said, my apologies, but I don't think I'm the right person for this opportunity. And so that doesn't mean I quit my job. That just means, hey, I think there might be someone else better in the office to do this rather than myself.
Mm-hmm. You know what you might like? This video right here on how to overcome the stress of job transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. No, that's very good advice. It's part of where you draw the line. What is worth fighting for your values in a way? Is it something that is, like you said, you can look at the big picture and see if it's worth it to compromise, or if it's just jumping too much over the line of your values and who you are and your ethics and integrity, and act accordingly in measurement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also related to work stress, do you have advice on how people can leave that work-related stress, whether it's deadlines and projects and things that are just driving them crazy and just causing them a lot of stress at work? How can they separate that and not bring it home?
Oh, I love this question. Okay, so this is something that we'll talk about a little bit later as well, with some of the tips that we have as to how to manage your stress. But one of the greatest opportunities we have is taking part in self-care. And I know that this is a buzzword that has been trending and we like to throw this around. Mm-hmm. However, a lot of people think that self-care has to be a spa day or an hour in a bubble bath or an hour walk or spending 2 hours at the gym if that's what releases your stress. And reality is it's honestly taking 5 or 10 minutes here and there to just stop and be present. And so a lot of our mindset and a lot of our thoughts are living in the past or in the future, and we're not focusing on the present. And so when we don't focus on the present, that's when we start bringing stuff from work home with us, right? Because our work is now in the past and we're packing it up in a nice little bag and we're taking it home. And reality is if you, and this is something that I like to do, if on your way home, I'm a music person, I trigger myself to turn on my music, whether it's my favorite album or I turn on a podcast rather that I really love, or I listen to an ebook that I'm really, really enjoying. And so, or an audiobook rather. And so I turn on things that will be a temporary distraction to what's going on at work so that I can shift my mindset so that by the time I get home, I can say, okay, I'm present. I'm here at home now, and I'm going to go ahead and enjoy whatever this next moment brings for me, whether it's cooking dinner or working out or going for a walk or hanging out with my dog. I think the best thing is just to force yourself to be in a present mindset rather than constantly circling back and forth around the things that have happened in the past at work, because despite the amount of time that you utilize to exert energy in thinking about what's going on at work, you're not changing anything aside from your ability to enjoy the next moment. So leave it there and then go back and deal with it when you go back to work.
Yeah, that's perfect. Also, the people at home do not deserve that either. I feel, that they want to deal with you as you are, neutral, as your whole self. They don't want to deal with your job. What
Absolutely.
you have there.
I think there is a value in having someone that you can talk to, because a lot of times we don't realize that we're not the only one going through something, and having someone that you trust to be able to express any type of stress is helpful in managing that stress. But you don't want to get to a point where your life is consumed by it and you cannot be present in the present moment because you're so engulfed in your work life.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, are you enjoying this video? Do me a favor and go over here, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when new videos come out, and also give a thumbs up. What can be some of the triggers at work that cause stress?
So I've worked with a lot of clients, and I've also noticed within myself that I correlate stress with fear. And so the reason that I say this is that I think a lot of the triggers for stress will be fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of the unknown. And so all three of those things end up being a cause for feeling overwhelmed. And so whether it's I have so much to do, I'm scared I'm going to make a mistake, or I have so much going on right now and I'm scared that they won't like how I complete this task, or a wrench gets thrown into your day at work and you're not sure how to adjust. And so because you're not sure how you'll react to the unknown, you just cross your fingers and hopes everything goes well. And so sometimes I think with that mindset of I hope everything goes the way I'm expecting it to, you end up causing more stress for yourself because you're not preparing for those, what I like to call alternative potential outcomes of the things that you go through in work. And so because you're not putting yourself in a position to anticipate those alternative outcomes and prepare for your response, I think a lot of times our stress levels increase because when you don't prepare for those alternative responses, your fear of failure, your fear of judgment, and your fear of the unknown skyrocket and elevate because of the fact that you're not in a mindset to say, hey, this might not go the way I'm planning, and that's okay because I have plan B, C, D through Z if this does not go the way that I expected.
One of the triggers I thought, because this happened to me before, is, someone dumping too much stuff on your lap to do that is not, it's not a reasonable expectation for you to accomplish all that because you're just one person. And that can just really create havoc, even if you have that all planned out. Like you said, you have all these, you're organized and adequately. How do you deal with that when somebody is just, when you're just getting too much that it's impossible for one person to do?
Absolutely. So with the focus on women,
Yes.
I will say that we have an expectation for ourselves to say yes to everything, and even the things that we don't want to say yes to. And there is no room for the word no or not right now in our vocabulary. I think there is this expectation that we're supposed to be at everyone's disposal. And I think a lot of that stress comes from that mindset, and we do a lot of that to ourselves. And so with that being said, one of the biggest things I would say is I'm not a person to ask for help. I don't enjoy it. And I also think that is something society and culture has placed on women. We're supposed to be the superheroes. And we can take all the punches and all the blows and we still come out smiling and looking ravishing. And so that is the way that I think we've built our expectation for ourselves, which allows us or propels us to struggle with asking for help. And so reality is what I would say, which is the best thing that I've taken on and had to kind of coach myself through accepting, is taking a slice of that humble pie and saying, putting my hand up and saying, hi, I need help. And the way that I do that is communicating my needs in order to create an environment where I can succeed. And so whether it's your boss or a fellow coworker, because sometimes coworkers will come in and say, hey, can you help me with this? And our initial reaction is yes, because I can help with everything. I'm Superwoman. But reality is if you cannot, being able to stay true to that and saying, I'm not able to, I have this going on and I'm not able to do that now, but here's when I can, right? Or being able to say, I really have a lot on my plate right now, and I want to be able to execute this at the highest level for you. And with everything else that I have going on right now, I don't believe I will be able to show up in that way. Or just simply being able to say, right now is not a good time. Is there anyone else that can help you with this? And so communicating your needs and being able to be honest in a respectful way and showing that you really would love to help, but right now is just not the time, and presenting options is a great way for not only you to manage your stress and set expectations for yourself and for the next person, but also being able to say, hey, I can't do everything, and that's okay. That's okay that I can't do everything.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned the superwoman, and that, you know, we are really great at multitasking, but there's so many tasks in that pie, you know. It's just, you just can't overextend yourself, because then you risk burnout, and you risk that stress to accumulate even more, and we all know that stress can cause manifest into health issues and all that. So it's really, as much as we want to help and as much as we, you know, even are capable of helping, it should never be at our detriment. Should never be at, you know, us not giving ourselves our best.
Absolutely. There's a lot of things we can't control, but one of those things that we can is saying no when it's necessary for us to say no. And I think we don't utilize that power enough. Mm-hmm. And there's ways to say no politely. One of them is no, thank you. And so just adding that into our vocabulary and explaining reasons behind why we're saying no. Usually people will be either empathetic or more understanding if there's a reason and the answer is just like, no, that's not my job, or I don't feel like doing that today.
And also, when you're saying no, you're saying yes to something else. You're saying yes to, you know, the task at hand, or you're saying yes at being true to what you're doing, or to what you want to do or are capable of doing, and not, you know, take on more things that you just can't handle. So I know that we're in an added stress right now, global pandemic. I'm sure there are people that will see this when it's not a pandemic anymore, that things have subsided. But I equate pandemic times with crisis times. So when you have a global crisis that is so explicit and so detrimental to the entire world, it adds a whole level of stress. So if you already have things that you're dealing with at work and you're trying to manage there, you know, now you're finding that you have COVID on top of all of this. And I wanted to ask you if you are hearing from people that the consequence of that does not mean necessarily that they lose their jobs or are laid off or furloughed or anything else, but it could mean that it's just more pressure and it's just added stress. Some companies are allowing people to work remotely. Do you find that it's less stressful to do that?
So I personally have come in, a few of my previous coworkers, or also a few of my friends and family are working remotely. I think there's a pro and a con to it. So the pros are, you're at home, you get to work in your pajamas, or half of your pajamas if you have to jump on a Zoom call, right? Yep. You get to manage your time a little bit better in the sense that there's less interruptions. You're not in an office setting. Those are the people who used to work in an office setting. They're no longer in the office, so there's less interruptions. Your phones aren't ringing off the hook. You're typically dealing through email. And so in regards to that, I think there's less of a stress because you have, even if it's an illusion, it seems as if you have more control over your work life because it's you in your house, in your home, in your comfort level, and you're being able to execute. Now, on the con side of that, I have seen people say that they don't enjoy it. And the reason for that being because of the fact that now home has become a place of work. And the stress that they typically used to leave behind in the office or at their workplace is now staying in their living area. And it's hard to escape from that when your couch has now become your desk or your kitchen counter is your office. And so it's becoming a place where it used to be a safe haven, and now we're blurring the lines between work and life balance, and it's all kind of merging into one. The other thing that has brought stress to some people has been the fact that they have to deal with most requests via email, and sometimes their written communication skills aren't as savvy or well developed as their face-to-face communication skills. In another level, it's also having to deal with a lot more technology. So jumping on Zoom calls for a meeting, and I've never done that. And so how do I interact in a virtual setting versus face-to-face? And how do I deal with technology that I've never had to use before?
Have I told you? Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting my channel.
And so reality is working from home can present a lot of benefits because, again, it presents a lot more control over your work life. However, it can present a lot of challenges in the sense of having to build a new skill set that previously may not have been necessary for your role.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I really think it depends on the person because the unique settings could be that you have kids at home. So now you're working at home and then you're dealing with either having to homeschool your kids or your distractions of your dog and your cat and whatever else is happening, your spouse or whatever is happening in your living situation. And I feel like it depends on the person's organizational ability, but also if they have a tendency to be able to compartmentalize things. So if to dedicate a space. I actually spoke with a psychologist who was her husband, I believe, is an engineer, and so both of them are working from home, and how they tackled dividing the spaces, and now they have two kids, that are home. They're not supposed. One of them is supposed to be in college and all that. So, yeah, people can watch that video. I'll put it up here, but I feel like it depends on that setting, on the circumstances, because, like you said, you could have that added stress at home that you can't separate things,
Right.
or like you said, you can't deal with this technology, the new technology piece, and I feel like, like you said, the email communication skills. Yeah, I agree with you. I see it all the time where people don't even write correctly, so it's hard to.
I do think on the level of distraction, I think your ability to be able to push out distraction is massive. I mean, working for myself at home with my newfound business, I have a dog that loves to bark at the mailman. And so every time we have a package delivery or a mail delivery or fill in the blank, there's barking involved, and a lot of it. And so it's having the capacity of being able to jump on a client call and say, I just want to let you know and apologize in advance that my dog may bark in the background. And it's being able to be a little bit more human and allow your client to empathize with you, because reality is there's things we can control and there are things we can't. And so being able to manage not only the distraction, but the stress that the distractions can bring.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that is a big skill set to learn during this time. And communication is going to be massive now.
Yeah, you touched on something that's, it's a crossroads. When you have that distraction happen, it's not under your control, right? But I feel like people are so much more understanding, and I think that's why
For sure.
that's probably how you should not be so stressed out when something like that happens, because people understand, everybody, the people that are fortunate to still be working at home, they have their own distractions.
Yep.
I think people are more understanding that it's okay. It's almost like you're getting a little bit of a glimpse of somebody's home life, and I feel like that's very endearing and human, and it really is authentic. And I think in authenticity, it also is a good mix for professional, relationships and connections. You need
Absolutely.
that authenticity. And
I
so
think
it's,
if anything, sorry, if
that's
anything
okay.
comes out of this pandemic
Mhm.
and the whole work from home life, it will be
Mhm.
the value for authenticity in the workplace, because now we've seen that.
Yeah.
It'll be the value of flexibility, of empathy, and of being able to, just kind of roll with the punches.
Mhm.
Because I think in a professional setting for the last decade or decades, we've lived in a way where you have to have work self and home self. And now those are merging.
Yeah.
And it's almost a beautiful thing to see connections flourish from the ability of just getting a glimpse of someone's personal life.
Yeah.
And we've been saying this forever, and I'm such an advocate of engagement, is our expectation for people not to bring their whole selves to work is almost impossible to set for anyone, because although some may be better at compartmentalizing, as we said before, even myself, who I've been bred through sports to say, when you get on the court, you leave everything else off the court. And that's in my DNA. There are still days where even if I don't bring the entire fight that I had with my fiance in the morning at work, there's still a part of it that sticks here with me, and I will not execute the same way. And so being able to build these personal connections and have a little bit more of authenticity in the workplace due to this whole transition of virtual and work from home, I think it's going to do wonders, not just your home life, but also your work life and how you build connections professionally.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. See you next time.